There are actually 3 holidays that celebrate redemption. There's Pesach, where we celebrate redemption from slavery. There's Hanukkah, where we celebrate redemption from invasion and abuse. Because Hanukkah happened in Israel, in the temple, in the Holy of Holies, which was invaded and violated, and we recovered by finding the pure oil and so on. And then there's Purim. Purim is redemption from an attempted genocide. Haman had no complaints to what Jews were doing or not doing. He just wanted to kill, to wipe out. So let's take a look at the 3 qualities that these 3 holidays bring out. First of all, it's interesting that nothing really has changed in the world since those events. There is nothing that would prevent a country from enslaving a population, particularly Jews. So slavery is still a very distinct possibility. We're a minority still, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, by and large, we are not paranoid of slavery. We don't live in fear of being enslaved, although we're not denying that it's possible at any time. Like, who would complain if Jews were enslaved? Invasion of Israel, of the holy places, we're being threatened all the time. And genocide, the same people who were looking to commit genocide back then are still looking. It's the same country, it's Iran. So the amazing thing is that we do not live in paralyzing fear of any of these 3. And part of the reason that we have developed an immunity is because we observe those holidays. So observing the holiday is not merely a ritual or a memory. It's actually, it boosts our immune system and makes us capable of proceeding despite these possibilities. So when we celebrate Pesach, we actually build up an immunity against enslavement. We feel freer. And on Hanukkah, we build up an immunity against invasion or violation. And on Purim, by observing Purim, we build up an immunity against genocide. So we know that it's possible, but we're not crippled or insane by that fear. But let's take a look. What does it mean to come out of slavery? Look at Pesach first. What does it mean you came out of slavery? Or what does freedom mean? Freedom means not enslaved? Not really. Enslavement is a condition in a human being, and freedom is a condition in the human being. It's not just a social condition. If nobody enslaves you, then you're free? Not necessarily. Freedom is an art. So how is it that we came out of slavery and we never look back? We don't identify as former slaves, as escaped slaves, emancipated slaves. The slavery is gone. How do we do that? Well, you got to look at what is the opposite of enslavement. Not the absence of enslavement. It's not enough to be absent of a dictator that enslaves us. what is the opposite of slavery. And that means that there's a certain freedom in human beings, a certain freedom of choice that can never be crushed. So how do you come out of slavery? Not by running away from who enslaves you. You have to get into that freedom that you have that isn't vulnerable to enslavement. Now, much of our freedom of choice can factually be denied. You get locked up and you're in prison. You don't have much freedom of choice. What choice do you have? What to eat? No. When to sleep? No. Where to sleep? No. What to wear? No. What freedom of choice do you have when you're totally enslaved? Ideally, you still have the freedom of moral choices. Nobody can take that away. You can make a moral choice. Now, they may prevent you from acting on it, but you made your choice, and there is your freedom. But the one freedom that can never be interfered with is the freedom to put yourself where you choose to be, or in different words, to give yourself an identity. No one can interfere with that. Like, for example, Sharansky was sitting in a Russian jail. All his rights, all his freedom of choice was taken away. More even than in an American prison. The one thing he had total freedom over is he could determine who he is and where he belongs. So sitting in a Russian jail, he thought of himself as an Israeli who belongs in Israel, who's going to Israel. Nobody could change that. Nobody could interfere with that. So the choice of identity is your ultimate freedom, because nothing can interfere with that. It's interesting that when a person passes away and his soul comes to heaven, one of the first questions that the soul, preliminary, before the actual judgment, a preliminary question is, did you look forward to the world being redeemed by Moshiach? That's a strange question. Did I look forward? What's the difference? Ask me what I did, what I didn't do. Did I look forward? Did I yearn for Mashiach? It's a very good question. Because everything else we might have an excuse. No, I didn't do every mitzvah. Well, circumstances took away my freedom of choice, or interfered with my freedom of choice. But what did you yearn for? There are no excuses. You're free to yearn for whatever you want, no matter where you are, no matter how oppressed you are. So, in what merit were our ancestors taken out of Egypt? The Gemara says, because we didn't change our name, Hebrew names, we didn't change our clothing, we didn't dress like Egyptians, and we didn't change our language. We continue to speak Hebrew. Now, none of those are actual mitzvahs. Those are all aspects of identity. We lost everything in Egypt. The enslavement was horrendous. So we could not live the life we wanted to live, but we never gave up our identity. And that saved us. It's not just the merit of it, the strength of it. If you can maintain your identity even in the worst enslavement, you have a certain freedom, even while being enslaved, that they can't take away. And eventually, that freedom will overcome the enslavement, and you will go free. So what is Pesach? Pesach is a time when that freedom that we have is more easily available. We can tap into it because that experience, that event, opened up that capacity that we have. So on Pesach, we sit down, we eat a piece of matzah. You may not realize you're doing a great mitzvah. You just feel like a Jew. your identity is solid. And that's what it's really all about. So what is the antidote to slavery? Freedom. And freedom is not the absence of enslavement. It's a quality that we need to build and cultivate and increase. You can get more and more free. And on Pesach, it's easier to accomplish. Then there's Hanukkah. How did we survive Hanukkah? We already had our own country. We were in the promised land. We built the holy temple, the temple that Solomon built. And there was a holy room and there was a holy of holies. And it was invaded. And it was soiled. It was desecrated. How do you survive that? And I can imagine that that must be extremely disheartening. When you're a slave in Egypt, you look forward to leaving Egypt, going home. Whatever your problem is, you figure, if I can just get home, if I can just get to where I belong, I'll be okay. But now we are where we belong, and everything is great. The only time that the world, the entire world, was at peace was during the reign of King Solomon, where the whole world just wanted to participate in this amazing thing that he had built. And then all of a sudden, that's invaded? But where do you go? Then what do you look forward to? When you think you've arrived and it doesn't work, that is more devastating than being oppressed by a foreign nation in a foreign country. So Hanukkah was a greater devastation than the slavery in Egypt, particularly since Jews had a tradition that the slavery would only last 400 years. And that began with the birth of Yitzchak. So the actual physical enslavement was only 210 years. And in those days, people lived to be 130, 140. So that was not a long time. So they looked forward to the end of the slavery. But if you're already in the promised land and now you're invaded, what hope do you have? So what's going to be good? When will it finally be good? That can be really devastating. So how did we survive that? By finding the pure oil. What is the opposite, the antidote to defilement, to being cheapened or abused or molested? The antidote is that part of you that is so pure that it can't be ruined. Or in different words, the innocence. There's a certain innocence that we have that is not vulnerable. It can't be affected. So the effect of the invasion is only superficial. It's only those parts of us that can be defiled. The Jews, miraculously, and we should be proud of them, refused to use the oil that had been defiled. Like acquiescing, like, okay, fine, so we'll never be perfect again. They refused. They said, there's no way we're going to use the defiled oil to light our menorah, which is to light our lives. They went looking until they found one little cruse of oil, and they said, that's it, this is what we're using. Even though there wasn't enough, logically, there wasn't enough for the menorah. But they said, we're gonna do this. We are going to use the purest of oil, meaning the most innocent part of ourselves. So, on Pesach, our freedom was threatened. And freedom is an aspect of the soul that we rediscovered and thereby gained our freedom. Came out of Egypt. Hanukkah We were invaded in our most holy of places, but there's an innocence that cannot be defiled, and by rediscovering that innocence, we bounced back from the defilement, and we were at our best again, not damaged goods. Now we come to Purim. Purim is amazing because the holiest day of the year, everybody knows, right? The holiest day of the year? Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is sometimes called Yom Kippurim, which means a day like Purim. Not quite as holy as Purim. Isn't that amazing? Yom Kippur is almost as holy as Purim. Now, on Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to carry, you're not allowed to do any kind of work. Everything is forbidden because you have to be pure, holy like an angel. On Purim, not only are you allowed to, you're encouraged. Eat, drink, do whatever you need to do. It is not a holy day in that sense. And yet we're told that Yom Kippur is almost as great as Purim. What happened on Purim? There was a threat of annihilation, of genocide, which means nobody was attacking your freedom or your innocence. They simply didn't want you to exist. Your existence was threatened, unconditionally. Made no difference whether you were religious or not, whether you were politically involved or not. So if your very existence is threatened, what is the antidote? See, the antidote to enslavement is your innate freedom. The antidote to being violated is your innate innocence. What is an antidote to your very existence? If your whole existence is threatened, what do you fight back with? In other words, what do you have that is greater than your existence? Because that's the only way to survive genocide. In simple words, you are vulnerable. How do you survive that? Obviously, you have to have something in yourself that is invulnerable, immortal. What is that? So Haman came along and said, these people are mortal, let's kill them. But it didn't happen because we are not mortal. What does that mean? Where does our immortality come from? And what is it? Now, on Yom Kippur, the objective, the idea is to recognize your own insignificance or mortality and ask God to give you life, because on our own, we're too mortal. So it's not that we're afraid we're going to be punished and killed for our sins. That's a very negative attitude about, popular but negative, about Yom Kippur. The objective on Yom Kippur is to get past yourself, because yourself is mortal. How do you get past yourself? Don't eat, don't drink, don't sleep, don't take a break. Just devote yourself completely to something bigger than yourself. Spend the entire 26 hours in the synagogue relating to God out of yourself, beyond yourself. Beyond yourself, you're not vulnerable. Yourself is vulnerable. Your entire self. But what is beyond yourself is not vulnerable. But how do we get there? By denying ourselves. Denying ourselves food and drink and comfort, and even the comfort of a leather shoe. On Purim, we do the same thing, but not by denying. We do it with joy, not by being overly serious. And what exactly does that look like? If you surrendered all your needs, and this is what religious people do, not necessarily Jewish. Religious people surrender all their needs to God's will. I give up. I'll make no demands. I surrender all my needs. I give them up. So I won't eat, so I won't drink, even if I don't live. But I'm putting myself in your hands, and you decide and you do whatever you think is right. That sound pretty religious? Huh?
Some.
Putting your life in the hands of a higher power, right? Surrender. So what does that mean? It means I have many needs. I've been pursuing those needs, trying to fulfill whatever they are, whether it's emotional needs, physical needs, mental needs, psychological needs, and I'm frustrated. I just can't do it anymore. So I surrender them. I am willing to go without. That's pretty spiritual. And somebody who achieves that for real, not just in words, they're a pretty impressive person. I can't think of an example of somebody who actually did that. But it would be pretty impressive. However, it's not a happy way of being. It's devoid of happiness. Because you know you have needs and you know you can't get them. And you make peace with that. That doesn't make you happy, even if it makes you very spiritual. And maybe that's why religion and happiness don't go together in the same sentence. If you're religious, you're a little depressed. No, that's how they come together. You see a happy person, they're not religious, because they're happy. And religious people see a happy person and say, "Whoa, what have you been up to? You must have been sinning because you're happy." That's a terrible misunderstanding. Purim comes along and says, you can get past all your needs happily. Drink, eat, enjoy, and you're beyond yourself completely. How does that work? So we're told that on Purim, we should get so happy that we don't know the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. Ad lo yada. That's pretty wasted. Why is that a virtue? The whole story of Purim is that Mordechai is the good guy, Haman is the bad guy. And how do you celebrate this? By not knowing the difference between... What kind of celebration is this? And where would that lead? If you don't know good guys from bad guys, I can't trust you anymore. You don't know the difference between good and bad. You're not babysitting my kids. The meaning, according to Hasidus, you don't confuse Mordechai and Haman. What you forget or what you don't know is the difference between blessed and cursed. We think Haman is a bad guy because he's cursed. And we think Mordechai is a good guy because he's blessed. No. Mordechai is Mordechai and Haman is Haman. There's an essential difference. Even if there's no blessing and no cursing. We know where our immunity, where our immortality lies. It doesn't lie in being a good guy or not being a bad guy. It's beyond that. So here's what it looks like in modern language. Most of psychology deals with human needs. If you're depressed, if you're upset, if you're malfunctioning, it's because you have a need that is frustrated, that is unfulfilled, and it is disturbing your whole system, and you can't function. You may not even know that you have this need because it is subconscious, it's very deep, and so on. With therapy, you can discover that need and either give it up or do whatever it takes to fulfill it. Unfortunately, there seems to be no end to these needs. So you go for therapy, you take care of a need. I see you used to hate your horse. Now you don't hate your horse anymore. You should be all better. Yeah, but now I got another problem. Now I need to be re-nurtured by my mother because I wasn't nurtured enough. Okay, we'll take care of that. Then you'll be okay? Well, no, then I'll have a problem. It just seems to like, when do you finally get there where you're truly healthy? We don't even know what that means. If we would see a person who is truly healthy, we would think he's insane. Because it's so rare. So the Torah tells us an interesting thing. If you look inside, you're going to find a lot of pain, frustration, unfulfilled needs. But that's just inside. Go a little deeper. Inside is not deep enough. Go a little bit deeper. What will you discover? You will discover that you have no needs at all. You need nothing. Like Alfred E. Newman. What do I need? I don't need anything. There is actually that place in us that really does not need anything. Not material things, not emotional things, not spiritual things. Nothing. Why is that so? Because we were created. We didn't create ourselves. You know what that means? Why didn't I create myself? Why, when I was told I would be created, did I actually resist? None of us wants to be born. So when kids today say, I didn't ask to be born, they're not depressed, they're enlightened. It's so true. So don't run off to the psychiatrist with the kid. Just tell him how smart he is. Because I didn't ask to be born either, now that you mention it. And why don't I ask to be born? Because I don't need to. I have no need to be born. And yet here I am. So what does that tell me? It tells me that somebody or something needs me to exist. That's not my need. I don't need anything. I didn't even ask to be born. If I could find that part within me, then I am stronger than me, right? Then I am invulnerable. That is the antidote to genocide. You think you can kill me because I'm mortal? No, I'm not. Why am I not mortal? Because I didn't create myself. I exist because of something beyond me, and you can't kill that, so you can't kill me. That's what happened on Purim. For an entire year, from the time of the decree until it was Purim, the Jews in 127 countries lived by the fact that they have no needs. They didn't ask to be born. This is not about them. This is about a bigger picture, a bigger and therefore you can't kill me. If I had created myself and I was vulnerable or mortal, then you can destroy what I created. But I am not just me. The truest part of me is not me. Because I didn't ask to be born, I don't need to be born, I don't need to be here. This is the difference between Torah and science. Science examines what is. There are planets. Try to understand, what do they do? What would things be like without this planet or that planet? So you look at what is, and you analyze it, and you examine it, and you experiment with it, until you find out, more or less, what it is and what it's not. All of science is that way. So science is trying to understand what is. It's obviously limited. It's limited to what is. The wisdom of Torah is not about what is. It's about before there was. What existed before creation? Before there were planets, what existed? I'm not talking about God. Before there was a creation, there was a plan for creation, or a desire for creation. And that plan and that desire brought about the creation. So what is the wisdom of Torah? The wisdom of Torah is to tell you what went on before there was. That which existed before there was cannot be destroyed. So when we study Torah, particularly the inner dimension of Torah, we're basically trying to get in touch with that which preceded our own existence. That makes us invulnerable and immortal. Our existence is mortal, but we are connected to something that precedes our existence. And so we know we will always be here. Actually, we can be reassured that the world, the universe, the planet that we live on, seems to be vulnerable. Because by its nature it is. But by the purpose for which it exists, it will never be destroyed. It's like if you're the principal's kid in school and you're a little weak and meek, you could be bullied. You are eminently a target for bullying. But your father's the principal. Nobody's going to bully you. So we have two sides. What I am is very vulnerable. Why I am, you cannot mess with. So the earth is very vulnerable. But as far as the earth's purpose, it ain't going nowhere. Because the purpose is eternal, which gives the existence of the earth, of the world, an element of eternity. And the same is true with human beings. If it's just me, I'm very vulnerable, tiny. But it's not just me. And this leads us to our conclusion. I think it's beautiful. There are four kingdoms: the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, and the human. And we usually think that the mineral is the lowest form of life, the vegetable is next, and then there's the animal, and then there's the human, that is the highest form of life. Because we're intelligent. Actually, lumping all four into one series is a little misleading. What we should say is this. There is the mineral, there is the vegetable, there's the animal. That's one category. And then there's the human being. Completely different category. We're not just a step up. Completely different. And the reason is like this. And this is really almost poetic. What is a mineral? Looking at it from God's perspective.
Building block.
God said, let there be, and there was. That's a mineral. A mineral is a response to the statement, be. So it be. And that's all it be. It is, because it was told to is. Right? That's a mineral. You tell me to be, I be. What else you want me to do? So it doesn't grow, it doesn't blossom, it doesn't move, it doesn't breathe. It's doing what it was told to do. It was told to be. In other words, every mineral is a statement. I am. I was created. A stone is a statement. A simple declaration of existence. What is a vegetable? A vegetable is an expression of God's pleasure in creating. The mineral does not express God's pleasure, only his word, his instruction. A vegetable is an expression of God creating with a little bit of pleasure. And that pleasure is what produces color, brightness, good scent, growth, blossoming. It's a pleasure. So how do we describe a vegetable? A vegetable is a song. It sings with pleasure. And of course, a constant pleasure stops being pleasurable, so they have their seasons. They blossom and they fade, and then they blossom again. An animal is another existence, but this time the animal is actually greedy for existence. It enjoys its existence so much, it will fight to exist. It will protect itself. It will protect its ability to reproduce. In a different way of describing it, an animal is an expression of gratitude. It is grateful for its existence. So the mineral just exists. The vegetable likes existing. The animal will fight for existence. So if you give the mineral what it needs, it's happy. You give a vegetable what it needs to be a vegetable, a little water, a little sunshine, happy. You give an animal what it needs, the freedom to roam and reproduce, and that's it, it's happy. Now what is a human being? A human being is a completely different, breaks the mold. The human being, by definition, a human being is never content being human. Unlike the other three that are content being what they were created to be, the human being is contrary. You created me human? Yeah, but what have I accomplished? So if I'm born human and die human, I've done nothing. I'm a total disappointment to myself. The human being, by his very nature, is not content being human. That's not a step up. That's a completely different reality. So if a human being says, I just need a house, some structure, a schedule, and an order to my life and to my, things in the right. You're a mineral. That's what minerals need. Just don't hit me, don't crush me, don't break me, and I'm fine. Yeah, well, you're fine. You're a good mineral. A person who says, leave me alone, I like my life, live and let live, that kind of thing, and I'm fine. Yeah, you're a great vegetable. You're a rose among the thorns. But you're a vegetable. The person who says, no one is going to interfere with my life. I will protect myself, I will fight, and I will... You're a great animal. When do you become a human being? By definition, a human being doesn't want to be human. Now you have one of two choices. Either you go down, you don't want to be human, so you become an animal, or a vegetable, or a mineral, or you go up. It's not enough to be human, so go up. Up to what? So some people say, some religious people, become an angel. That's a step up. It's not. It's not. It's like saying, you want to be more than yourself, then become spiritual. Spiritual is not more than yourself. That's yourself being spiritual. So a Jew who says, I want to be a good Jew, I want to be a great Jew, I want to be the greatest Jew. You're an animal. You just like what you are and you're going to defend it and perfect it and pursue it. You haven't gotten to anything above yourself. So that's what Purim is all about. Purim says, don't do the Yom Kippur thing, Don't get dressed up in white and turn all holy on me and all spiritual and you're not eating like an angel. That's not up. You want to become something more than human? Go right ahead and eat and drink and all that stuff and be more than human. You're not going to get above yourself by simply denying your needs. You got to get in touch with the part of you that has no needs. And since you have no needs, eat. Why? It's Purim. It's a mitzvah to eat. Not because you need it. That's getting way beyond yourself. It's like the famous statement, don't be humble. You're not that important. If you feel you need to humble yourself, you're so arrogant. You need to be humble. Why? Because you're so great. That's Purim. On Yom Kippur, you humble yourself. And it's good. Once in a while, you got to be humble. But on Purim, it's like, what are you humbling? Who asked you to be humble? We're beyond you and your needs, even your spiritual need to be humble. So that's why on Purim we discovered that there is more to us than us. We actually experience that thing we want to be because we're not content being human. And that's when we received for the first time the title or the description of Yehudi. The first time in the Torah that Jews are described as Yehudim, which is where Jew comes from. We discovered what lies behind us that makes us indestructible. So some people ask, if there was a holiday made for Hanukkah where we survived the attack of the Assyrians or the Greeks, if there's a holiday that we make for Purim because we survived Haman and the Persians, why isn't there a holiday after the Holocaust? So some people say it's because we haven't recuperated yet. You don't make a holiday out of an event until after you stop bleeding. And with the Holocaust, we're still suffering. So maybe when the suffering finally ends and we recuperate, then we'll make a holiday. But the correct answer is, it's the same holiday. Celebrating Purim is celebrating the Holocaust. Because what does the Holocaust show? You can't kill us. It's more dramatic than Purim. Because in Purim, there was one king who decided to eliminate Jews. In the Holocaust, it was the whole world. The whole world. You know, we thought maybe Switzerland was the exception. No, they just had a different job. Their job was to hold the money. So the whole world decided Jews have to go. Jews are not going. So you don't need another holiday to celebrate the same virtue or the same power. What saved us on Purim saved us in the Holocaust. We are not, as a people, we are not mortal. So, what happens on Purim? On Purim, we have the opportunity, at least for one moment, to actually be fully human, which means not human. Because the essence of a human being is, he doesn't want to be human. He doesn't want to have what he was given. He wants to achieve something. On Purim, we can do that. Purim opens the gate to that quality, the quality that is the opposite of genocide, the opposite of mortality, the part of us that is bigger than us, and therefore us cannot be killed. So by not eating and not drinking, what are you trying to prove? Go ahead, eat, drink. It doesn't matter. You're beyond that. I think that physically, in human nature, this is going to be the future of psychology. Psychology will take you beyond your needs, not into your needs. And then we're going to be really healthy. In simple language, if you have a problem and it's bothering you, it's because you haven't gotten past it, not because you haven't fulfilled it. So don't even try to fulfill it. Move past it. You have a problem, you're lonely. You are here to take care of others who are lonely, not to heal your own loneliness. Because you didn't ask to be born. So if you feel lonely, now you know what your job is. Help people who are lonely. If you feel unloved, bingo, there's your job. Find the people who are unloved and help them. Does this sound a little too idealistic? Too selfless? I have a very good analogy. It really is quite compelling. There are people today who are worth $100 billion. I have no idea what that even means. But there is no question in anybody's mind, particularly the guy who is worth $100 billion. There's no doubt in his mind that $100 billion was never meant for him. Because if he lived 1,000 years, he couldn't spend it. So it is so obvious that God can give you something and it's not for you. It can't be for you. Is that only true of money? What if you have a lot of knowledge? It was all meant for you? Obviously not. What if you have a lot of energy? All meant for you? Obviously not. And you go down the list. What is it that you have that was meant for you to keep? Your problems? Not your gifts. No gift that we have was meant for us. Because I didn't even ask to be born. So if you know something, who are you supposed to deliver this information to? To keep the information is like the guy who has $100 billion under his mattress. What are you doing with it? Well, it's mine. Yeah. It is yours, but it's not for you. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. You can't argue that. So why is it if you have information, you can keep it under your mattress? If you have energy, you can keep it all. You have love, you can keep it all for yourself. That's going beyond ourselves. That's the future of psychology. The future of psychology is you're not needy. Knock it off. You are needed. Go to work. You're needed. You're not needy. If that's not liberating, I don't know what is. And that's Purim. So what do you do on Purim? You give food. Don't just sit there and eat. You share the food. You send it to others. You give to the poor. And you forget about being blessed or cursed or healthy or not. You're beyond all that. And you know the difference between Mordechai and Haman. Now you really know the difference. That is an amazing, healthy state of mind. And it shouldn't stop with Purim. We get an injection of that on Purim, but then you spread it throughout the whole year. You're hungry? Who are you supposed to be feeding? It's not just for yourself. And that's why the Rebbe had this policy. If you've learned A and you haven't learned B yet, well then teach A to those who don't know A. You don't have to know the whole alphabet before you become a teacher. Teach whatever you know, because whatever you know was not meant for you. You are needed, not needy. The future of psychology. Can you imagine a world of people who are not needy but know what they're needed for? If that's not Moshiach, I don't know what is. What do you think?
I need to listen to the lecture again to get it.
We're going to retitle it. It's going to be called The Future of Psychology in a Hamantash.
And how do we find it on Facebook? What's the Facebook name, the address?
My father's name, or Chabad Edisi. We'll have a link to it.
Okay.
But if you remember just this little thing, a vegetable is a statement. A mineral is a statement. A vegetable is a song. An animal is praise. And a human being doesn't want to be human. That's a description of nature, if we see it clearly. That's enough of an inspiration to change everything.
It's a very different way to look at it. I never thought of it like this.
But it makes so much sense. Why are human beings so confused?
Never happy.
We don't know where we fit. Because we don't. We're trying to fit. We're trying to get ourselves... Where do we belong in nature? So the environmentalist says you don't belong. Get off the planet and it'll be wonderful. You're the corrupter of nature. That's not nice. But really, we don't know where to put ourselves. Where do we belong on the food chain? we don't belong on the food chain. So the reason we feel like we don't belong is because we don't belong. We are not content to be what our nature gives us. So until we find something bigger, we're not going to be content. You can blame it on your mother if you want, but so you had Freud, who blamed it on libido, and you had Adler, who blamed it on lack of power, feeling weak, and you had Maslow, who said you have a hierarchy of needs, and it's also depressing. Like, oh no, so I need that. Oh, I need some of that. And then I need... Never going to be happy. Give it up.
And then along came Frankl.
Okay, and Frankl comes along and says you have to find meaning. It's not quite far enough.
Use AI and Silicon Valley machines fit into that.
Artificial
Is it
intelligence?
literal, or is it its own fifth component? Because we are in Silicon Valley.
What is AI?
Artificial
Oh,
intelligence, or
intelligence. Oh, okay.
half bionic, half human, putting big chips in the brain.
It fits very well. It's basically saying all these needs you think you have, a machine can do them. Get beyond that. So even intelligence, is that it? You exist to be intelligent? A chip can do a better job. You must have some other purpose. Get beyond it. And the same thing with angel. Now the religion has, you have to, when you die, you'll become an angel. No, you won't. You don't go down, you go up. An angel is artificial intelligence. Because their intelligence is instinctive, not acquired. They can't learn. They know what they know, and they know a lot. More than the human being. But it's just an artificial intelligence. The angel of kindness is kindness. That's all it is. It's instinctive. It's not a complete composition of talents, of emotions, of intelligence. It's just a one-dimensional creature. You could call it artificial. And it's impressive. I mean, the angel of kindness, infinite kindness. But that's all. The angel of judgment, infinite judgment. Awesome. But that's all it is. It's a judgment. So we don't go from being human to being an angel. That's not progress. You go from being human to being godly, in the service of God. And what does that make you? It doesn't make you anything. It serves Him. So when you get married, what does that make you? It doesn't make you anything. It makes your spouse happy. Ideally. So if you do a mitzvah, what does that make you? It doesn't make you anything. You don't become holier than thou. You don't become an angel. God is happier when you do a mitzvah. And what are you? You're here to serve Him. So there is no ego. There's no selfishness. Being spiritual can be very selfish. It usually is. So if somebody comes to you and says, you know, you really should light Shabbos candles, your only question should be, really? That makes God happy? That's your only question. This woman was at our program and she said, you know, I really would like to start using the mikveh, but if I start using mikveh, what will I become?
I wouldn't think that.
In other words, will I become holy? Will I become religious? Will I become spiritual? Will I become more serious? More, you know. She said, what will I become? I said, wet. That's the only thing that happens when you go to the mikveh. Other than that, God is pleased. That's why you go. If it doesn't please him, I'm not doing it. So we call it commandments. It's not a good word. Of course, his wish is our command. That's cute. But it really shouldn't be called commandments. God is telling us what pleases him and what doesn't. So now we know. Where is that a commandment? Didn't somebody write a book, The 10 Commandments of Marriage? Isn't there such a book?
It's more like 11. As long as that extra little comments down there.
11 commandments.
Yeah, how it goes.
Can you imagine marriage with its commandments? That's disturbed. A relationship doesn't work by commandment. A relationship works when you're feeling needed and find pleasure in that. A marriage doesn't work when you feel needy and think the marriage is going to solve your needs. So here's the punchline. We would much rather be needed than have our needs fulfilled. Because the only thing that a human being really needs is to know what he's needed for. To be more than me, to be more than human. All the other needs, we didn't ask to be born. So a person says, I need to eat. No, you don't. You need to stop eating, but you can't. See, if human beings didn't eat, we would live forever. If we weren't dependent on food, we would live forever. But we can't. So what is that, my need? That's not my need. It was not my idea. If I created myself, I would not need to eat or sleep. But I didn't create myself, so who needs me to eat? Well, whoever designed me. But I don't like it. I'm taking no blame for it.
I heard that in the past, or who was it, that knew what the body needed and would eat just what they need. But we're not, I don't know if it was Chris, I don't know if somebody else, that, you know, you need that that particular mineral, that particular thing for your continuing to live, and they would eat just that. But we are not as in tune with our needs today.
God created us with an appetite, not just hunger. Plants eat only as much as they need. They have no appetite.
It's also true about usually animals when they're wild. I'm not talking about dogs, but they're
Corrupted
corrupted
by human beings.
human
Yeah.
owners.
You know the first commandment in history?
Peru, Virgo.
Oh, no?
Don't eat the apple.
Don't eat the apple.
Don't eat.
No, before that. Of all the trees you may eat. That was an instruction. There are fruits on those trees and I need you to eat them. They're not there for nothing. But this tree, don't eat from.
Is that considered one of the Taryag mitzvot?
No. No, that's just like a prerequisite for all the mitzvot. First, eat. See, if God had not said eat, they would never. Don't just help yourself to food you didn't create. So if God hadn't said, of all the trees you may eat, they would starve. Because until you're given permission, what do you mean you're going to go ahead and eat? So God is actually telling us, I need you to eat. Not just the minimum. That's why we have appetite.